All right, good morning, everybody. Apologize for the delay on the test prep time. It was a little bit of technical difficulties on our end. So we are starting a little bit later than normal, but here we go. And talk about punctuation, similarities, and differences. And again, I'm going to be focusing on 4 different pieces of punctuation specifically. There will be other ones I'll be talking about. I will, but focus on 4 specific ones. Specifically the colon, semicolon, period, and comma. I will be bringing in other ones as well, but nonetheless, it is important just to kind of focus and trying to keep it as simple as possible as necessary. Okay, I do first want to plug our tutoring options. So it is really important for students to pay attention, and to stay with their skills. So one thing that we have noticed is that you can't really just cram for these exams. You really kind of have to stay practiced as far as we possibly can. So we do offer online tutoring. In this day and age, it's absolutely very helpful. So we have online tutoring not just for the SAT, but also for the ACT. And additionally, we do have it for any kind of subject tutoring as well. So you can just go to that link, methodtestprep.com/online-tutoring, and that will take you to online tutoring options that we have available. So again, I'm going to talk about the 4 pieces of punctuation, specifically the period, which we know that ends a sentence, a comma, which does do other things besides what I have listed here, but I'm going to focus on this one aspect of the comma, and that's going to be separating an independent clause from a dependent clause. Then we have the semicolon, which separates 2 independent clauses. Okay, and then the colon, which is going to set off an example from the independent clause and the one that precedes it. Okay, and again, these are very easy to get confused. So I'm going to kind of put them into examples. And the first thing I'm going to do is kind of give you is to kind of go over a couple of terms. So when I start talking about independent clause and dependent clause, hopefully you have a better idea of what I'm referring to. So important terms that I need to touch base on, we have parts of speech. Okay, so we have nouns, which must be either, which are going to be either a person, place, or thing. Pronoun, they replace a noun. And then verb are basically your action words. Parts of a sentence, a subject must be either a noun or a pronoun, and it's going to be performing some action. Your predicate is going to be the action that's going to be performed. So when students are asked, hey, if there's what do I need for a sentence in English, a lot of students will say subject and verb, which is totally accurate. But again, I'm going to focus on subject and predicates because that's just a little bit more accurate. Because a subject can either be the noun or a pronoun. The predicate must contain the verb, so that's why subject and verb is actually okay. But subject and predicate is just a little bit more accurate. The independent clause is going to contain the subject and predicate. Kind of sounds exactly what you would expect, independent being independent on its own, which means that it can be a sentence on its own. Dependent clause contains the subject. Okay, dependent clause, I have that back. Contains the predicate but no subject. Cannot be a sentence on its own. All right, so I'm going to take a look at one particular sentence here. We have one sentence. I'm going to basically take it and just kind of rewrite it 4 ways and be punctuated accordingly. So we have the basic one, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. There we kind of just have a period that's just going to be ending the sentence. Here, with the next example I have, fetching a pail of water, Jack and Jill went up the hill. So fetching a pail of water would be the dependent clause, and then Jack and Jill went up the hill would be the independent clause. Fetching the pail of water is my action. I know what's happening. I just don't know who is performing that action. Jack and Jill went up the hill. I have Jack and Jill would be the subject. Went would be the verb. Okay, so that would be then my independent clause, and that's why I have the comma is correct. Next, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Okay, and then followed by they went to fetch a pail of water. So I have Jack and Jill being the subject, went being the verb, and then after that semicolon, I have they, the subject. In this case, it's a pronoun, followed by went being the verb. So I have subject and verb before, subject and verb after. Again, that's why it's going to be the semicolon, okay, and separating the 2. And then finally, we have there 2 kids who went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, Jack and Jill. I can't think of a single person who was ever going to write a sentence like this, and that's one thing that we definitely see with students, is that, like, who would write a sentence like this when they get to some questions on the SAT, okay? However, you have to go with what they give you, and this is a grammatically correct sentence. There are 2 kids who went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Who are they? Jack and Jill, because again, that's the example of what came before. Again, of that independent clause that comes before. So let's take a look at our first example. So this one is just kind of basically what we want to be looking for. So when we have sentences like this, we should be looking for nouns, pronouns, verbs, and focusing on the punctuation that's involved. So in this particular question, I have Siskeros. Okay, so Siskeros is going to be my noun, which in this case can be a subject. Was asked is the verb or verb phrase. So I have a subject and then a verb. Notice I have my comma. So I want to be looking for other subjects and verbs. So I have he, that's the pronoun, which can be a subject. And then I have titled, which can be the verb. So I have subject, verb, verb. So if you remember correctly, since I have a subject and a verb, followed by another subject and a verb, those are going to be two independent clauses. And what do I need to have for two independent clauses? It must be a semicolon, which is not what I have here, so that's why the first answer choice is going to be incorrect. So now let's focus on what would come after. So what's going to come after, let's again look for subjects and verbs, nouns, pronouns, and verbs. He, titled, subject, verb, pronoun, verb. He titled, same thing, and then I have it was titled. Okay, so in all of these, I do have the subject and verb that comes after. So how am I going to know which is the right one? Well, again, how the SAT likes to toss in extra tricks here, we do have this word which. By tossing the word which, sometimes it'll be a pronoun, sometimes it'll be a conjunction. For example, the word because. It's going to then take an independent clause and turn it into a dependent clause, where it cannot be a sentence on its own. That's one thing to be very mindful of, okay, is knowing that when words can change, okay, and when phrases will change, and then again, how it's going to work in the sentence. And one great thing that you can think about these is that your ear will be a very good guide. So if I kind of broke this up, Siskeros was asked to celebrate Tropical America in his work. Okay, that sounds perfectly fine as a sentence. Let's talk about what comes after. If I just want to just focus on just that portion, which he accordingly titled America Tropical. Okay, if I just did that portion, it does not sound like a sentence on its own. And again, your ear will actually be a much better guide than you think. So we know that that can't be a sentence on its own. So have the independent clause and dependent clause. So the comma in that instance is going to be correct. Number two. So if we take a look at here again, let me look for nouns, pronouns, verbs, and my punctuation. So here I have regulating. That would be my verb. Okay, but who's doing that regulating? All right, well, if I keep going, notice how I have, all of a sudden, I have a period. Well, I don't know who is going to be doing this regulating, in part of this portion of the sentence. All right, so I know that this then must be a dependent clause or an introductory clause. Okay, I do not have a full sentence here. Then I have dams, have. Okay, dams would be the noun, have would be the verb. So again, now I have a subject and a verb. So that's then going to be my independent clause. And if I did pull that out, it can stand on its own. So I have the dependent clause followed by the independent clause. Okay, so then I should be looking for a comma here. So when in the first answer choice I have here, I have a period. So I know that that's going to be incorrect. What do I need for a semicolon? Again, same thing as the period. I would need the subject and a verb before, the subject and a verb after to separate two independent clauses. Again, just like the period, I do not have that, so that's going to be incorrect. Okay? I said before I was looking for the dependent clause and the independent clause, so I should be looking for the comma, and that's going to make this the correct answer. Please note, very often, commas and dashes can be interchangeable, but this is not one of those instances. So without getting too much into the weeds, just know that dashes really can only be used to set off non-essential information. They cannot be used to separate an independent clause from a dependent clause, so that's why that next one is going to be incorrect. Example number 3. So again, what we want to be looking for, nouns, pronouns, verbs, and our appropriate punctuation. So we start with Banneker. That would be our noun. Studied would be our verb. Let's keep going, and there's our punctuation. There's a comma. Okay, since I have a subject and a verb, that means I know that I have an independent clause. In order for the comma to be correct, it must be a dependent clause that comes after. So notice how I say he. That's a pronoun. That can be a subject. Charted. That's going to be a verb. So now I have a subject and a verb before. So I have a subject and a verb before the comma, a subject and a verb after the comma. I have an independent clause followed by an independent clause, which hopefully I'm very well aware I know is incorrect. So it must be either a period or a semicolon. So since the semicolon, or since the comma I know is incorrect, okay, then I should be looking for periods or semicolons. Hey, guess what? Look at my next answer choice. I have the period. But notice what they did. They got rid of the he. So this is now no longer an independent clause. By saying charting how the migration of the stars relates to the passage of time, again, notice how that kind of sounds like it's hanging there. It's not a full sentence. So that's something to be very mindful of when they do change these answer choices. That if I kept everything exactly the same, then that period would have been correct. But because I changed the words, this no longer is a correct answer. Again, we did want to make sure if we did have the comma, it has to be an independent clause and a dependent clause. So this answer choice is kind of almost the correct combination of these two. Okay? So then that becomes our correct answer. And then with our final answer choice, they just kind of toss the word also in there just to make it a little bit more confusing. All right, so he charted is still going to be my subject and verb. That's still going to make that comma incorrect. Let's look at our next example. So currently only 2 power plants use case. Okay, so again, I have my semicolon, and I want to be looking for my nouns, pronouns, verbs. So I have power plants, which would be the noun. Use is going to be the verb. Okay, and I have a semicolon. That should be good. So I have my independent clause, so I just need to be looking for another independent clause after. So let's make sure that I have that. I have one, that would be my noun, and then do I have a verb to go along with it? And I do not. Okay, all this is technically a prepositional phrase, which I could get rid of the sentence. I do not have a verb that goes along with the word one. So that's going to make that semicolon incorrect. What do I need for a period? Same thing as the semicolon. I would need the full independent clause before and the full independent clause after. Again, I don't have the verb there. That's going to make this incorrect. Hopefully you're picking up that you see these similarities between the period and the semicolon. And that's one thing to know on the SAT. If you see 2 answer choices and all the words are the same, the only difference is in one answer choice you have a semicolon and another answer choice you have a period, then it's going to be wrong. Okay, because if one was right, the other one would have to be right. Since one is wrong, the other one also has to be wrong. So now we get into our example with the colon. So again, we have these 2 answer choices that are left. So again, the colon is going to be an example. So is what comes after the colon is what comes before the independent clause? Yes, we know that's true. And then afterwards, do we have an example of what comes before? And it most definitely is. There's only the 2 power plants, and again, those 2 power plants. So that's going to make our third one the correct answer. Just know, in this case, I have the word one here. One would, in this case, have to come after the colon in order for that to be correct. Let's look at our next one. Now, like we saw in that first example with Siskeros, we do have to pay attention to these other words that could turn an independent clause into a dependent clause, which would make it no longer a sentence, which again is going to affect our punctuation. So here we see this word because, so that's what we got to be very mindful of. So now again, let's look for our nouns, pronouns, verbs, okay, and again our punctuation. So we have consumers, reap. I have a subject and verb. There's my comma. All right, so that's what I should be looking for. And then I have farmers and businesses, should continue. So again, I have my subject and verb before, and I have my subject and verb after, which is going to be, should be creating my independent clauses. However, because I do have these words, I have that word because, that's going to turn the independent clause to a dependent clause. I have the word therefore, that's going to turn the independent clause into a dependent clause. So though I have a whole bunch of crazy words here, guess what? It's not a sentence, because these are all both 2 dependent clauses, and I need at least 1 independent clause for it to be correct. All right, so that's why that first one is going to be incorrect. So I take a look at some of these other answer choices. So in the third one, it's going to be the same problem as therefore, and colon is not going to work because it's not an example of what comes before. But notice by getting rid of the word therefore, I now have farmers and businesses should continue. That's now going to be the subject and the verb that takes that dependent clause, turns it into an independent clause, and that's going to make that the correct answer. Let's go to number 6. So example number 6, we have adjacent box is going to be our noun. This is just redescribing it. So again, kind of tossing it, what they call the appositive, some comma phrases just to confuse you. I have adjacent box believes. Okay, so there's my subject and verb, and then boom, there is my punctuation. In this case, it's the semicolon. Again, what I need is a noun or a pronoun before, a noun or a pronoun after. In this case, I do have the noun and the pronoun before, so there's my independent clause. I do have the noun after. I don't have the verb. So that's going to make both these first two choices incorrect. Now, between these two that are left, again, you want to kind of go simpler. That's one quick rule that you want to keep in mind with these exams, is shorter is always better. So in this case, you're kind of adding this word being for really no reason. It doesn't have any purpose, so that's going to make that incorrect. So in this case, the third one is going to be our best example just by process of elimination. But notice, again, what is the colon? It's going to be an example. So in this case, is the dark snow problem an example of the factor? And yes, it is. So that's why that colon is going to be the correct answer. And now let's look at our next example. Okay, so example number 7. It took me by surprise then when my favorite exhibit at the museum was one of IT''S, tiniest. We're going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. Okay, so it took me by surprise then when, so let's look at verbs and punctuation. So I have it, that's my pronoun, took, that's my verb. Let's keep on going, okay, and here we have our punctuation. Here's our semicolon. So again, what do I need? 2 independent clauses. I have the subject and verb before. I have a noun, which can be a subject, but no verb that goes with it. So again, right off the bat, I've knocked out 2 answer choices because it cannot be a semicolon. Now here's where we're getting to the distinction between the comma and the colon. Now, you can maybe kind of get away with the comma as being correct. It's really going to be better with the colon because, again, it's going to be the example of what comes before, and that certainly is. The favorite exhibit is going to be the Thorn miniature room. Okay, so that's why this is the best answer choice. We are going to be doing test prep times, both these ones at 11 o'clock and also the ones at 1 p.m. that will be going into all kinds of different concepts. So this is one that will come up in the future. Definitely is really important to make sure you do know the understanding, the differences between these two, the ITS and the IT''S. IT''S is going to be the same thing as it is. If you actually read it out as was one of it is tiniest, right there, that sounds awful. So we know that that's going to be incorrect. Here, ITS, that's the possessive, so it belongs. So we know that that's why that's going to be the correct answer. Okay, we're going to hit one more. So again, we're going to have, look for our nouns, pronouns, verbs, and punctuation. So I have proponents is going to be my subject. Okay, and then I have are would be the verb. Okay, so let's look at where we see kind of punctuation here, and we only see it here, right around these commas. All right. Now, the reason why this first one's going to be incorrect is because technically, when you have the such as like that, that really would be pulled out of the sentence, and it doesn't belong. So if you kind of pulled out, then it's really not going to work. Okay. So now what we want to do is again focus what it could be. So we have the colon, we have a comma here, and then we have a comma here. Okay. So now the important thing to keep in mind here is again, what is the colon? The colon is an example of what comes before. So is this an example of what comes before? A desire to protect the environment. Is that a reason why people would buy organic? And that's absolutely true. Okay. The problem is that we have this word such as. Now you got to be careful. Okay, because the colon effectively means the same thing as such as. So if I have such as colon, it's repetitive. I don't need both. Okay, so if I have the such as, I would need to get rid of that colon. If I got rid of the such as, then a colon here would actually be perfectly acceptable. But because that's not how that answer choice is written, that's going to be incorrect. We're not going to pause. Okay, you're not going to say such as. So again, you do need the comma after the food because again, it's going into what the next portion of the sentence is. So that's going to be the third one incorrect. So in this case, the fourth one is going to be our correct answer. Okay, do apologize for the delay with the technical difficulties for starting a little later than normal. I did want to let you know that we are going to be doing the Test Prep Time Plus, Words in Context. We do give these at 1 p.m. every Monday through Friday. So you can go online, whereas these are little quick hits. Those are going to be a little bit more extended, so they can be very helpful and focus on very specific concepts on the grammar, reading, or math portions on the SAT. We do focus on our online self-paced program. It's certainly a good time right now to be using the program. Again, like I had said earlier, it's really important to be keeping your skills up while the schools are closed. So it's an excellent way to do it. We like to say 15 minutes a day, and students can improve their score. So it's an excellent deal right now by using the code FUTURE. You can save 50% off, get the program for only $99.50. And then finally, I do recommend subscribing to our blog. Yesterday we did a phenomenal webinar, which was specifically going into just the general college exams and just the important things that all parents and students should know. But we're also going to be going into kind of the specifics with this current situation as far as the latest information regarding these exams. So I definitely recommend the blog or going onto Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and they can be extremely helpful in keeping you updated on the current situation. And again, SATs, ACTs, and again, also subject tutoring as well. All right. Hopefully you found this beneficial. Have a great day.